Once upon a time, there was a young man named Nico. He was a bright and ambitious person who always worked hard to achieve his goals. However, he had one weakness. He loved to talk. Nico was known for his silver tongue and his ability to persuade people with his words. One day, Nico decided to seek the wisdom of Buddha, the great spiritual leader. He traveled a long way to meet Buddha and ask for his guidance. When Nico finally met Buddha, he asked him, "Great Buddha, please teach me how to become wise like you." Buddha smiling and said, "To become wise, you must first learn when to be silent." Nico was confused. "But Buddha, I thought words were the key to success. How can being silent help me become wise?" Buddha replied, "My dear Nico, there are two situations in life where you must be silent. If you learn to do this, you will gain great wisdom." "What are those two situations?" asked Nico. Buddha replied, "The first situation is when you are angry. When you are angry, your mind is clouded by negative emotions. Your words will only add fuel to the fire. You must learn to be silent and let your anger let go before you speak." Nico nodded in agreement. "I understand, great Buddha. What is the second situation?" Buddha replied, "The second situation is when someone else is angry. When someone is angry, they are not in an active state of mind. Your words will only fall on deaf ears. You must learn to be silent and wait until they are ready to listen." Nico was impressed by Buddha's words. He knew that he had a lot to learn from the wise sage. He decided to stay with Buddha and learn from him. Over the next few months, Nico learned a great deal from Buddha. He learned how to meditate and quiet his mind. He learned how to see the world with compassion and empathy. He learned how to be mindful and present in each moment. While one day Nico was walking in the forest when he heard a commotion. He saw a group of people gathered around a man who was shouting and waving his arms. The man was clearly angry about something. Nico remembered Buddha his words and decided to be silent. He watched as the man ranted and raved, but he didn't say anything. He waited patiently until the man had exhausted himself. After a few minutes, the man calmed down and looked at Nico. "Why didn't you say anything?" he asked. Nico laughed and replied, "Because I knew that your anger was clouding your mind. I didn't want to say anything that would make the situation worse." The man was taken aback. He had never met someone like Nico before. He was used to people either fighting back or running away. He looked at Nico with newfound respect. "You are a wise man," he said. "I wish I could be like you." Nico laughed and replied, "You can be if you learn to be silent when you are angry and when someone else is angry." The man nodded in agreement and walked away deep in thought. From that day on, Nico became known as a wise and respected person in his community. He used his words carefully and only spoke when he had something valuable to say. People came to him for advice and guidance, and he was always happy to help. Years passed and Nico grew old. He knew that his time on earth was coming to an end. One day he decided to visit Buddha one last time. When he arrived at Buddha's temple, he saw that many people had gathered to hear Buddha speak. Nico sat down among the crowd and listened as Buddha spoke about the importance of mindfulness and compassion. When the talk was over, Nico approached Buddha and bowed respectfully. Buddha looked at Nico with a smile. "Welcome back, my dear friend. It is good to see you again." Nico returned the smile. "Thank you, great Buddha. I have come to thank you for teaching me the wisdom of being silent. It has changed my life and helped me become a better person." Buddha nodded in understanding. "I am glad to hear that, my friend. But remember, the wisdom comes from within you. I only showed you the way." Nico bowed respectfully. "I understand, great Buddha, but I will always be grateful to you for guiding me." Buddha smiling and replied, "You have learned well, my friend. Now it is time for you to pass on your wisdom to others." Nico nodded in agreement. "Yes, great Buddha. I will do my best to share what I have learned with others." And so Nico spent the rest of his days sharing the wisdom of being silent in two situations with anyone who would listen. He became known as a great teacher and mentor, and his words touched the hearts of many. When Nico passed away, his legacy lived on. His teachings were passed down from generation to generation, and his words continued to inspire people for centuries to come. And so the lesson of being silent taught to Nico by Buddha became a guiding principle for countless people around the world. It reminded them to be mindful of their words and to use them wisely with kindness and compassion. As the years went by, the teachings of Nico spread far and wide, inspiring many people to live a more mindful and compassionate life. His words became the basis for many books, and his teachings were studied by people all over the world. One day, a young man named Roku stumbled upon the teachings of Nico. He was going through a difficult time in his life and was searching for guidance. The words of Nico spoke to him in a way that nothing else had before. Roku decided to seek out the teachings of Nico in person. He traveled to the monastery where Roku had once studied under Great Buddha. When he arrived, he was greeted by a kind and wise monk who showed him around the monastery. As they walked, Roku saw the places where Nico had once meditated and studied. He felt a deep sense of reverence for the man who had taught him so much. The monk noticed Roku's reverence and asked him, "What is it that draws you to the teachings of Nico?" Roku replied, "His words speak to me in a way that nothing else has before. They remind me to be mindful of my words and to use them with kindness and compassion. I want to learn more about him and his teachings." The monk smiling and replied, "You have come to the right place. Nico's teachings are still studied and followed here. I will introduce you to the other monks and they can help you learn more." And so Roku spent the next few months studying the teachings of Nico and practicing mindfulness and compassion. He learned the importance of being silent, just as Roku had before him. When Roku left the monastery, he felt like a new person. He had a deeper understanding of himself and the world around him. He knew that the teachings of Roku would guide him for the rest of his life. Years went by and Roku became a teacher himself. He shared the teachings of Nico with anyone who would listen, just as Nico had done before him. He touched the lives of countless people, inspiring them to live a more mindful and compassionate life. And so the teachings of Nico lived on, passed down from generation to generation. They continued to inspire people to be mindful of their words and to use them with kindness and compassion. And the world became a better place because of it. Thank you for watching. The Anything is Possible tribe. Have